Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. This is episode 13, and I'm Christopher Tanner, joined by my hosts, Charles Dill Pickle, the Dill Man, and Matthew McConaughey. How are you tonight, sirs?
Not nearly as cool as Matthew McConaughey.
Well, they don't pay me to drive around in a Lincoln without my shirt on, but other than that, I'm doing all right.
Awesome. Tonight we have an amazing episode for you. We're going to cover quite a wide swath of topics. Is that how you say that? Swath? I don't know if that's how you say that or not.
Swath? Yeah,
that's good. Essentially, what we're going to be doing is covering quite a bit of different material tonight. We're going to break up the show a little bit than we usually do, and we're going to be covering a lot of different things. So, of course, this week we're going to cover the reveals. We're also going to be covering a little bit about the GSP Jedha tournament. And on top of that, we are going to break down some ideas for helping your gameplay get from casual to, I don't want to say professional, but maybe a little bit more than just your average player. With that being said, semi-competitive. I don't even want to say competitive. I just say, like, do you want to do more than just move your ships 2 meters on the board and think it's okay? Right? So the idea is if you want to take your game up a little bit and move around the table in a different manner, we're going to talk about tips and tactics to do so. Matt also has a segment about what churns his dials, and it relates, ironically enough, to the GSP tournament that happened this weekend. And Matt's going to be able to give us a little bit of an intake and insight into why he hates running away. Now, I always say I like running away. Yeah, I like running away when it comes to a bull attacking me or somebody with a gun. Typically, I run away from those scenarios. But we'll get what Matt's saying tonight in a little bit. With that being said, hey guys, how was your week going? Go ahead, Matt.
I defer to Captain Matt first.
Sorry, the cat was bugging me. Good. Busy, like most of my weeks have been recently, but going really well. Got some new orders for furniture, so I always like selling stuff, so yay. Other than that, just been busy.
Awesome. How about you, Charles?
I got notification that my Lego set's finally shipped after a week, so I'm super excited to get the primary indentured servant and the Mandalorian starfighter.
Awesome.
Got news that we're getting additional multiplayer content for Ghost of Tsushima, so I'm super stoked for that. Some 2-on-2 and leveling up so that you can get more powerful weapons, so I'm super stoked. And the kid goes back to school next week, so our life gets to return to somewhat normal, so I'm all right. Good week all in all.
And behind you, do you have a table set up with an X-Wing on it? It looks like you got like this big mat on a table back there.
No, that is
puzzle.
So I got bored waiting for my Legos to arrive and bought a puzzle at Walmart that I am currently in the process of losing my mind and having a mild mental breakdown putting together. I had forgotten how much chaos puzzles were. So, yeah.
Awesome. That's good. I had a pretty good weekend. We ended up going to the beach today. I helped my mother-in-law get her new cell phone. Essentially, she moved out of the phone that should have been dead 10 years ago syndrome, and we moved her into an older model for iPhone. So hopefully that'll work out for her. What we also did, though, and I'm going to switch screens here, is we played a game of Epic. Can you believe it? We actually played a game of Epic on Friday. And here, I'm going to bring up...
On a table?
On a table, yeah. Let me see if I can bring up some pictures here. And I don't know if I can do that. I'll have to go back. Oh, it brings them up in the wrong screen. Super awesome, Chris. Anyway. But we have, I'll see if I can find some pictures, and what we could do is kind of talk through that here in a second. But essentially what I did is I created and this is, Charles, you're going to laugh at me because you probably know some of the rules that I don't know. But I got to use the new Trident class squid this weekend to play on a table. And essentially, what I did is I got to put Asajj Ventress on my ship. That was amazing. Like, Asajj has never been in Separatist before. She's always like a scum, and I think
Right, she's the Shadowcaster pilot.
yeah. And so, like, she doesn't show up at all for anything in Separatist. So it was super nice to be able to put her in a list, and it was fun, super fun. So I ran the Koloniakide, I don't know how you say that word, destroyer, but mine, the little ship guy. Then I ran 4 HMPs. 2 of them were the sync laser cannon version, and 2 of them were essentially missiles. I ran Zam Wessel in the fire spray, and then I ran Grievous in a miscellaneous vulture droid. And I chose to opt into thread tracers, which didn't matter because I had nobody to take locks on the ship that I wanted to shoot. So that was fun though. We played the scenario we played, Charles, was what did we play? Oh, we played where you have to get these shuttles on or off the board, right? And so what would happen is we would have a set of shuttles that John owned, and they had 8 health each, and I think it was 1 agility. And so you have to shoot at them. And what happens is at the end of the round, if the shuttles are still alive, you roll to put victory points on them. Now, what happens was, if you killed it before I had victory points, it was worth nothing to me. If John could not get those shuttles to leave until they get the 3 victory points. So essentially something has to sit there. And what came down to the very last round was I overarched my Grievous and was not able to get a shot on the one specific shuttle I needed to kill. And it already had 2 victory points on it. And then what happened was my shuttle got away, so it couldn't, or not, my stupid squid got away. And then what happened was I ended up having one of John's ships and then being able to double tap Zam and kill it off. And I lost because John was able to get the shuttle off the board, so it was worth 75 points, versus if he had not gotten that off the board and I killed it, I would have won by the 75 points, essentially, give or take. So
I'm looking at that Asajj card for your crew. That would be stupid if it wasn't epic only. If CIS had that crew card, that thing would be so broken.
Oh yeah, because essentially it does require two crew, which only would be able to fit on. I think it would only be able to fit on the Sith Infiltrator, because I think that's the only thing that has 2 crew slots in it.
Maybe I'm looking at a different one, because mine, it requires the command slot and a crew slot.
All right, so here I'll show you. Give me just a second. I'll bring it up on the screen. Maybe.
So if it's the one that I'm looking at, it's during the system phase, you may spend a force if you do each enemy ship in your forward firing arc at range 0-1 gains 1 strain token unless it chooses to gain a jam token.
Yes.
It also gives you the focus to purple coordinate abilities. You can take a focus and then spend your force to also coordinate should you choose to do so.
Yes. And so, this takes up a command spot. Crew. Yep, a command and a crew. Yep.
So that has to be big ships, right? Isn't that the epic ships?
Yeah, it's epic play only. It's epic play only. Because if that was a CIS card,
yeah,
holy Moses,
awesome.
It is. I'll tell you what,
we're just gonna slap that into Zam and call it fun.
Right. Right.
So the other thing that I had on there was what did I have on there? I had her, and then because you get the 2 actions right with it, there was another one I had where you could coordinate, and it's called ComSteam, coordinate calculate if you wanted, which I didn't use because it wasn't as effective as the other one. But if I needed 3 mods, right, I would use that. Then you could use that. And then they also had, I was able to shoot out my rear. And then I had these tracking torpedoes, which ended up forgetting to fire off 2 rounds in a row. And by the time I fired it, it was too late. Too late.
Sounds like a good time, though.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Yep. And essentially the way that this worked is after you perform a tentacle attack, you can give somebody a tractor token. So it only went off once the whole game, but I was able to tractor his Jonas all the way up to me and actually get a range 1 shot back at him. And by the way, Matt, the way, you know how it says bonus action, you can take all those actions. There is literally 0 limit to how many times your ship can shoot if it has those conditions. So
handy.
Yeah.
And also crazy.
Yeah. It was fun.
You have to go through it with me. I've like never done Epic, and it's always been fascinating to me. But at the same time, it's like I don't necessarily want to buy $100 ship. So yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of Epic is you don't have to have an Epic ship.
Yeah,
I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit because I love Epic.
Yeah.
Right. In 2.0, Epic is shades and above better than what it was in 1.0 because of one thing, and that's the whole wing leader aspect where you dial in one maneuver and all of the ships perform that maneuver if available. It makes the game flow a lot smoother.
If your wing leader is like, let's say Anakin Skywalker at I6, does that mean the entire wing moves at 6?
Yes.
Yes.
How cool is that? See, like these are the things. Like I've just never played it in person to know like some of these rules. So I'm happy that Chris was able to play some because now I'm gonna able to pick his brain and kind of see how it's played. Like that's always the thing. Like we've always had those questions. Like, can we shoot this many times? It seems like we should be able to, but it also seems like we might be cheating. Like I don't know. It's like these like 100%. Weird. Like I guess if we both do the same things, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So Matt, here's the other thing too so here's the example, and I guess we'll do we got to do an Epic show. We're gonna add this it's gonna be a show we got to plan. Yep. Now that I played it, I think we can go through it. So he had Vader as elite squad leader and with 5 flanking TIE 1s or TIE fighters, right? Mm-hmm. And when Vader barrel rolled, they all got a free barrel roll. So Vader spends the action to barrel roll his team. They could still all take focuses because everybody barrel rolls with Vader. If Vader had afterburners, he would do an afterburners charge, and everybody gets it. Everybody.
Okay. Regardless of it, the ship actually has the ability. Then they get their other. So as a strength, Vader can always take his multiple actions anyways because he's Vader. So basically his entire wing could do it. I have very big things. Yeah, it's like Jay's asking. He says that setup time is a lot higher. Is that because it's like 2 mats?
You have 2 mats.
It's a 6x3 play area.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And there you have to set up for the scenario. So you have your scenario set up, plus all your assembly of your ships, and you lay 6 obstacles. So everybody brings more obstacles than you normally do. So we each bring 6. So you have to set all your obstacles up. The other part of the setup is, so this is where I screwed up. I had 2 points left over for a wing leader, and I didn't use them. I could have put my HMPs in a wing leader set, and what would have happened is they would have rotated and just moved all around. Also, by the way, did not know this, you can have more than 8 ships total. So I built my squad thinking you could only have 8 ships, and here comes John in with 10. And I was like, damn it, because like I would have taken a droid swarm with my thing, but I didn't want to waste all my points. You could
only take 8. Oh man, nope. What's the limit on Epic?
There isn't a limit on Epic, as far as my knowledge goes, because there's no Epic tournament play where we need to have that cap to fit into a certain time limit to keep it moving. Epic is a scenario-based kind of a storyteller idea in comparison to like a PvP type. So think of it kind of like, and I hate to bring this game up, and I apologize, but think of it like World of Warcraft. When you played like a PvP, normally it was 10 on 10, and you had that cap You never
Right.
saw more than 10 people on either side when you went into like Warsong Gulch. But out in the world, when you're doing the story-driven missions and stuff, there was nothing to stop 100 Horde people from transversing onto one Alliance guy and just decimating him. There's nothing to stop
Got
that.
it.
In the story-driven version of Epic, there is no cap except for your point limit.
Gotcha.
In 1.0, before we got the Sea Rock as the Sea Rock cruiser as a Scum faction, when it came time to play Epic, it was just, okay, I'm going to dump every single ship that I own into a 500 point list and we'll bring everything. So you had Shadowcasters and Fire Sprays and any,
Every ship
IG
and every
pilots.
ship.
You had the Brobots. You had any ship and every ship that you could possibly cram in.
Right.
And then we got the Sea Rock, and it really didn't change anything because you still kind of cram everything in because it's not an effective ship. It's not like the Carillion Corvette or the Star Destroyer. Was it the Victory class or Viceroy class Star Destroyer the Empire got?
Can't be Victory class. Victory class is a big ship. What are you talking about? Did you talk about the Dauntless class? Is it Dauntless? Isn't that what it is? The Dauntless?
Well, no, it's not. I don't think it is.
What's the one that
Armada? It's the Raider Corvette is what
Raider
Empire has.
Yeah, it's a Raider. Yeah, I think it might be a Viceroy
Raider.
class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller one.
It's
the
Victory
ones that you
class
always
is
see
a
get.
Star Destroyer. So
Yeah, they're not Star Destroyers. That would be
They're
cool.
not.
Don't get me wrong.
It's the one from. It's actually in. What is it? It's in one of the games,
Squadrons.
Actually. Yeah, Squadrons too. There you go. And it's also in one of the other one too. It's the one with what's her name? It was in Battlefront. Was that the name of it? Yeah, Battlefront.
Now, I will say I would not recommend playing Epic for newer players who have not spent a lot of time with triggers. I mean, there is millions of triggers, and John's Raider is an example of that. That Raider is awesome. Holy crap. That thing can double calculate. It can use its calculates to extend the distance of its missile shots. It's crazy. Just crazy what it can do. John was able to get off like protons on me at like range 4. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Bye-bye, HMP. It didn't die, but it almost died.
Gotcha. So is that? Yeah, it's interesting. We're gonna have to go over that sometime. It sounds fascinating. So
yeah. So we will do something. We'll have to figure out how we're gonna do it, but we will do something. I think where we we'll do like an Epic online Epic thing or something like that. It's just gonna be it'll be like a weird mix. I don't know. Well, with that being said, why don't we get into the new release stuff? Right? Let's do that.
Sounds good to me.
Now, I don't know. Have you both had a chance to see the newer cards by chance?
I have.
No.
All right, so I'll bring them up here.
I'm supremely interested in one more than any other. Just me personally, but that's just because it affects the faction that I play. Which, by the way, you guys will be happy to know. I spent some time this weekend trying to fly a Republic list. It did not go well in any game that I played. I played Chris, I played John, I played a couple of randos. All of them ended in utter failure. But I am trying things that are outside of my scum.
Yeah.
What?
I like Republic though. I'll be honest. I think Republic is probably my second favorite faction. Besides, I don't know, FO. I like it right now. I like it better than FO, but I bet FO is going to take over once the new stuff comes out.
Yeah. Speaking
of FO, the first card that we're going to talk about tonight is a First Order Gunner, DT-798. And essentially, the card says this: at the start of engagement phase, you may choose a friendly ship in your firing arc. If you do, that ship gains 1 strain. Second part of the card: while you perform an attack, you may re-roll up to 1 die for each ship in the attack arc with 1 or more non-lock red or orange tokens. Now, think about this on Malorus. Or can you turn Gideon into Malorus?
You mean you're talking about Malorus in the FO?
No, Malorus in the
Z shuttle.
The Z shuttle. Yep.
Does that have a gunner slot though? Is a gunner?
I don't know. Let's look it up. Let's look it up.
I was gonna say, I
Let's
think
take a
only
moment
the
and look that up.
SFs. Maybe I'm wrong. SFs, and I
Yep,
think this
you're
is
right. It
probably
doesn't have a gunner slot.
yeah. So it's probably only for the new release of the bomber. Would be my guess is it's going to have a gunner slot, and then I believe the SF has a gunner slot. So honestly, what are you guys' thoughts of this on the SF?
I think you can now run Gideon and you can run SFs, right? Because Gideon's cheaper than Malorus. Malorus is the one that hands out all the strains. This way you can use it just for a few select ships, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you could.
So I think
yeah, you
you're
could do like
missing
a
it.
hybrid
So
swarm.
we're branching into my topic later in the show, but since we're talking about it now, there's no reason we can't kind of weave it into this discussion. But also putting Sloan on things and running this
Sloan would be Empire. This is a first order only upgrade, sir.
Oh, is it FO only?
Yeah, it's an FO only. You are not getting it in
never
Scum,
mind.
unfortunately.
Sorry.
No, I didn't want
about
it
the
in
Sloan.
Scum, but I was looking at Sloan being able to pass out red tokens left and right like that.
Right.
Having a ship that had this gunner on it that got rerolls for red tokens that were non-lock, like that'd be ridiculous. But yeah, you're right. Sloan is an Imperial only, so disregard.
Well, like Chris was saying though, but you could also pair it with some the TIE silencer, the silencers.
Yep.
That would also be kind of a nice one because you're going to be picking up stress often with those. And really, how many rerolls do you need? Especially when it just says in your firing arc. And if you're running an SF with one forward, one backward, you got 2 arcs anyways. You got quite a bit of spots there where you can be throwing and rolling those some of those different things.
Yeah, and I do.
And the other
like
thing
this.
that it doesn't specify.
I'd say I like this because
you're good. Go ahead.
I like it because essentially what it's doing is it's giving you some of the similar options. Plus, if you think about it, if you take Hollow, you're passing off something. If you take, Von Reg, you could have Von Reg as well. There's just all sorts of things. You're getting a Boba-esque reroll, but at the negative cost right at your ships,
But that's the thing, though, is it's not necessarily, and that's so Boba is enemy ships at range 1. When you look at DT-798, it's missing one separator, and that's that it's for each ship in the attack arc with 1 or more non-lock red tokens. So that's your own ships plus that's friendly and opposing. Right. So you start putting a stress bot on there and running it with a stress bot that can throw them out on your opponent. Or flying your ships and doing K-turns and sloops and Talon rolls to stress yourself into that arc to give you rerolls. You've got basically a full arc target lock without having to waste your time taking that action, because as long as there's ships in your arc that have some sort of a red or orange token, right? So that's jam, that's weapons disabled, that's
is it orange too?
Yep, it's red or orange tokens.
Okay, yeah.
So jam, weapons disabled, strain, deplete, stress.
Angel's Ties Whispers are going to have jam bots, at least one of them. Oh my god, can you imagine? Yep. All of those.
Yeah, because you can pass those out, and then as long as they're on the board, I get rerolls. So
yeah. Well, and then there's also too the like you might want to think about Muse and some of these lists where you can actually use some of that to actually delete some of that stress or to work with some of that stress too. There's going to be some options, and I don't know what stress and crit box you're talking about or the stress bots, but I'm sure it's probably one of the newer items that I probably missed. But yeah, I'm curious about these lists, and there's probably going to be quite a bit that they can do.
Yeah, I like this right here. This is I personally, unless they price this card at like 10 or 12 points, I think this card is, my guess is going to be 3 to 5, and my guess is this is going to have to take an errata, or they're going to have to up the points. But to begin with, I think this is a great card. I can't wait to use it.
I think it pairs well with like Quick Draw.
Well, it's a May too.
Is good for the bonus attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the rerolls. Yeah, passive rerolls on Quick Draw seems good. Also, the downside of this card is a May, so I don't know. I'd be surprised if it's less than 5 points.
Yeah, I would too. but we'll see. The next card we got was Breach in the TIE Bomber. And essentially what he does is after you fully execute or perform a boost action, if you move through an enemy ship, you may acquire a lock on that ship. Also, during the system phase, this is its pursuit thrusters, you get to perform a boost action. So if you can perform your white boost action, boost through your opponent, and then 4K back, and you've already got a target lock, you don't have to worry about any of those other things, right?
I mean, if you're able to actually boost over,
Boost through it,
it's
yes.
I would say boosting over or through. Through might be a little bit easier, especially if you're doing your banks. You're not boosting straight over any ship. I mean,
You don't
it
have
just
to
doesn't happen.
boost. You can perform if you fully execute a maneuver. So if you pull
Right,
a
but what
K
Chris is
turn or a
talking about is
Talon or a sloop.
right. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, but what Chris is talking about is like during the system phase. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, if you do it during the system phase, you can do it, and then you of course have your action later on. It's interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Also, it says
I
if you
gotta
look on it, it
disagree
says,
with you.
all right, go ahead.
It's not that it's not good. I think it's a fun ability. I'm not saying that it's a bad ability. I'm just saying that for one ship on your squad to be able to get a free target lock, I don't see this being competitive. I see it being very fun. I see you building a list to have fun flying through your opponent's ships and messing with things. Do I see this singular ship bringing FO into a crazy new level of competitive play? No. It looks like a fun ship, but I don't think that it's going to be game breaking. That's my hot take. Sorry.
There you go. All right, let's go on to the next one. Scorch. We've seen Scorch before. Scorch is that new.
Yep.
Scorch is good.
Their texts say, while a friendly ship at range 0 to 1 performs a primary attack, it may spend 1 hit result. If it does, after defending, the defender gains 1 strain. So
seems to pair well with our aforementioned gunner.
Yeah, so this works well with the gunner, right? I don't know. I don't know because you couldn't put the gunner on this ship and have it be valid. Yeah. It's just not gonna. It wouldn't work because you're already shooting.
Can you put the gunner on this ship, Chris? Is that a gun? Is there a gunner slot on that ship? I'm sorry.
I think the bomber does have a gunner slot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
Well, these aren't the bomber, or they are the TIE bomber. Okay,
yep. Yes, this is the TIE bomber.
It would make sense that it does. Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay.
I think the benefit here is that you can shoot at somebody, which would normally remove the strain token, and spending a hit result to leave the strain token on that ship, so the next shot also is less 1 die. I think that's powerful just to kind of shoot through the strain instead of shooting to remove the strain. It makes a ship doubly vulnerable. We see how powerful Wedge can be in both the A-Wing and the X-Wing, especially in recent times. Joy Rekov being able to remove an evade die against an attack, but only being able to do it 1 time. This allows you to do it multiple times for other ships that are shooting as well, whereas Wedge, you only get it for your shot.
More on the other
I think this is good at an I4. I don't know how much I'll see it, but I'm hoping it's good.
Yeah,
it is the I4 meta.
I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote no on this one personally.
You're not wrong there, Chris. I4 meta.
Oh, okay. Wait a second here. This is okay. This is I didn't quite read this. This is maybe a little bit better than, but it is only primary attacks. But it is all friendly ships, which is handy. So I guess as you were saying last time with the last one, I would say that this is actually, to me, seems more like a fun setup than the last one. The other one I actually felt had a little bit more actual value as it comes to attacks. But this right here, I think it's just more of a fun. I mean, I get what you're saying about Wedge. Yeah, Wedge is awesome. And it'd be nice to be able to do that, but you basically have to be in pretty tight formation.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you run an FO Focho. and take out a couple to put the bomber in, and then you've got 5 or 6 shots that are all, I'll just spend one to keep you down 1 die. And if I'm shooting it, say, Bosk,
but
it's definitely worth me spending a hit to keep 0 dice, because Bosk only gets 1. So,
but still though, you're shooting 2 attack dice and using presumably 1 solid hit to remove a die. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. It's like
it's
one
going to
of
be
those.
it's going to be more of one of those where it's got 2 attack dice, right? It's going to be one of those you roll hit blank or hit focus, and you don't want to spend your focus or don't have a focus or a target lock, and you're like, screw this. I'm gonna spend it because it's going to benefit everybody else.
Right. I get you.
That's where this would work, you know. But yes, given with that gunner slot, this can replace Malorus now to some extent, right? We've got similar hit points. I don't know the costs of any of them, but you have something that can now drop bombs. That's not Malorus, right? You know, you're between this and that gunner, you can just add all these different rerolls. There's quite a few things I think that can be done with this on it. But we'll see. You never know.
I also like that it didn't have to have the strain token up front. You could target an I6 ship that didn't get a strain going through a cloud and give it a strain.
Yep, that's true.
Yep.
That is very true. All right, the next one is Overtuned Modulators. Charles, if you want to read this one, because this is your favorite card.
I definitely do. This is the one that I am looking forward to most. So Overtune Modulators, it is an illicit slot, which means most every Scum ship gets it. I think there's some CIS ships that have an illicit slot, and some of the resistance ships also have illicit slots. So during your system phase, if you are not stressed, you may spend the charge on this card. It is not reoccurring. To gain 3 calculate tokens. During the end phase, if your charge is inactive, for each green token you remove, gain 1 strain. So, really not a whole lot of downside because it happens during the end phase. So, do a blue, clear one. Make sure you spend 3. Either whether it's double shots or whatever the case may be. But it allows you to give yourself 3 calculates during the system phase. So you can still take your focus, you can still take your target lock, you can still boost, you can still barrel roll, you can still do all of that wonderful stuff. You can still use Cutthroat to recharge this. You can still use Jabba to recharge this. Scum has any number of ways of putting the charge back on this ship. So you can use this multiple times. With Jabba, that's 4 uses.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
5 uses. 5 uses in a game to be able to have triple calculates. Can you imagine a big base ship that doesn't have to spend its action to get dice modifications?
Yeah.
All right.
Especially fire spray.
Yeah.
Or robots.
There you go. How about this now? Now think about this in CIS, right? I'm going to spend it. I get the 3 calculates. Guess what card I could take? I could take, Kraken, tactical remote or whatever they call it, tactical upgrade. And by the way, I can keep the green tokens, right? If I don't use them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to get a strain token at the end of every turn that you have it out.
No.
Yeah, you do.
No.
Why are you shaking your head? No.
It says
because you only
token
gain the strain
removed.
if you remove a green token.
Gotcha.
So if you have a card like, say, Paylob or something, or Moldy Crow that allows you to hold on to your tokens, Moldy Crow's focus, but just in general, if you have a card, what's the crew? Spend 2 charges and you're able to hold on to a token.
Gamut key.
Yeah, Gamut key. Spending anything like that allows you to hold the token so you're not removing it, it doesn't trigger this card. This card is only triggered when you remove the token.
I see it now. Yeah. Sorry. I missed that word.
So with Kraken, this is going to be crazy.
Sorry. How easy is it to spend 3 calculates, though, in a turn, Chris?
If it's on a ship that has network calculate, they'll all go. That's the other side to this. If they're not on a ship that has network calculate, it's not going to go very well.
Right.
Now,
how many do the droids allow illicit slots?
No, the choice. No. They don't have a
So
list.
this isn't even CS. They're not.
If it did, I'm
crazy. I love it. Yeah.
no way, Matt. You hate droids as it is. You'd be like, Chris, you're never gonna play CIS
never
again.
play them again. Yes. No. I mean, you can. You're just not against me. You know.
So I will say this: in 1.0, we had an upgrade that was called Glitter Stim. Glitter Stim allowed you to spend it to get a stress, and then all of your dice that rolled focuses became hits or evades.
Yep.
This has a similar effect, minus taking the stress. I now have 3 calculates that I can spend at will. So now I fly my ship that has this into your A-Wing swarm, into your droid swarm, into your TIE swarm, into your M3A swarm, into whatever swarm. And now I have 3 defensive mods against your 8 shots. Am I going to spend all 3? Probably.
Oh, no.
Right.
Think about it this way.
Z95s exist, for instance.
That's true. But think about it this way. Guess what Zam can do? You put Zam, and then you get like Grievous or somebody else with a tactical relay of Kraken. Zam now can focus and 3 calculates, target lock 3 calculates, and guess what? Yeah. As long as you're close enough, you don't have to get rid of the target or the calculates. Period. You can hold those for turns.
Well, you can run a very large number of like Z95s or the Kirax, I'm sure. Also, there's multiple options, and if you can run this with it, you can always take your lock, so you can have ordnance ready to go, and have your calculate. So you're going to be running double modded shots.
Yeah.
The other thing that I see, and this is just me personally, I have been reestablishing my love with Brobots, reestablishing my love for the IGs. They don't get enough play. They're not super competitive, but they are a lot of fun. There is an IEG Pilot that allows them to share and pass calculates amongst them. So if you run one defensive with this on it and one offensive, you can pass those tokens from one IG to the other. If you're running a ship that's not an IG with the IG crew, and you run that IG that has the token passing capability, this opens up your ability to pass those calculates to ships that are not IGs, but have the IG. So like Bosk or Dengar or any ship that's got a crew slot, any fire spray that's not Boba that has that crew slot that can have the IG on it, whatever. We'll just pass those calculates around and do what we need to do. There is a lot of application for you to dump these calculate tokens to other ships, so you have a plethora of modifications that at the end phase you have no negative effect for.
Yeah. Because what kind of jumps into my brain is like having like an anchor, like a ZAM style anchor for one of these, almost with the what would you call it? Like it really wouldn't matter. Like you could run Koshka Frost, Eamon,
any fire spray that has a crew.
Any fire spray, right? Where you can like have, Jabba the Hutt on it, and then you can just run like a little mini swarm with it.
Jabba's only going to...
There are some real powerful options coming up with that.
I want to say YV is the only Jabba carrier.
Yeah. Is he double crew?
Oh, he's double crew. So YV is the only Jabba carrier at the moment.
Scum Falcon, bro.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I forgot about Scum Falcon. You are correct. Oh, Scum Falcon with this.
All right. All right. Well, let's move on to the next card.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're excited. I'm kind of excited too. Matt, to answer your question, the only thing with an illicit slot is ZAM. It is the fire spray.
ZAM does have an illicit slot. That's cool.
Yeah.
So that's
the only one though.
Yet another reason to run ZAM.
Yeah. Well, no, you just made Jango even more viable. Or Boba Fett. Now my non-viable ones are viable, 100%.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. No, it's a powerful ship. It's a powerful card. It's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And you can run relays then, presumably, with that.
Yeah, you would run a relay in a different ship, and then you would run this illicit on your fire spray.
Yeah.
And your fire spray can run stealth device. Oh my god. There you go, Charles. Remember when I ran those stealth devices against you? You hated that. So stealth device and this stupid overturn module. Oh, you don't have to spend your focus. This is going to be like a shock T of. This will be like the shock T of freaking separatists. This is not going to go over well.
Can you pick any 3 calculates with Kraken, Chris, or does it have to be on 3 different ships?
Nope. Any three.
Oh, handy.
So just to
It just
put
says
this
you have
out
to
there.
hit a certain range, and they have to be on the board.
So just to throw this out there, you also have Resistance faction Fireballs
I know.
and Falcons.
I know.
So now you run triple force Ray can also take this and have triple calculate, so she doesn't even have to spend the force unless she needs to on offense.
Handy.
Oh, so many practical applications.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this card.
Many points.
Sorry.
All right.
Many
Oh.
points.
Oh yeah, I venture this will probably be a 6-point plus. I don't
Right.
think we'll see it above 8. Otherwise, it won't see
Right.
any play at all. But I would
Right.
venture 5 or 6 for this easy.
All right. So
Right.
you said
Yeah.
5 or 6. Matt's, what's yours? What's your over
right.
under?
I mean that sounds about right. 5 points would be my medium. I would
I'm
say
gonna say
somewhere
1 to
near
3.
5 points.
I'm
Really?
saying 1
Really?
to 3. Yeah.
All right. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Well, contraband cybernetics. Let's put it that way. Contraband cybernetics is 3 points.
Yeah.
So that allows you to take one action while stressed. It's a very powerful card.
Well, it allows
Fair
you to do
enough.
red maneuvers and take an action while stressed.
Well, anything. Yeah.
All right. So the next card that we have is a resistance bomber called Lega Fasang, right? Which she says, or they say, is while you perform a primary or a cannon attack, you may reroll 1 die for each friendly device or calculating friendly ship in your attack arc.
Mild correction. Turret, not cannon.
Sorry,
Yeah.
turret. Did I say cannon? Did I really do
You
that?
did.
Yep.
All right.
It's all right.
It looks like a cannon, so that's probably why I said that. The first thing in my mind.
Sure.
Anyway, yay or nay on this one? What do you think the interactions are? That type of thing.
Ion cannon turret.
All right.
Unless we get some new turrets, which is possible with the resistance Y-wing. Because it's a ship we haven't had before, so there may be some things in there that we've not seen yet. What other turret options do we have?
Yeah, but calculating friendly ship, though. Calculating friendly ship. I don't know. To me, there's not tons of resistance ships that calculate, right?
There is now, because after you perform any sort of action with intuitive interface on your talent, illicit, or I don't know, whatever that slot is with the 2 X's, upgrade, you may
that's just your upgrade slot.
Yep. You may perform a calculate action. So all you have to do is overwrite any of these. You can put targeting computer, boom, there you go. Now you get a free calculate. I do a target lock white, and I get a free white calculate. It's white linked action.
Very, very handy. Well, that's good though too. That adds a lot of oomph to these little bad boys. That's really good. I like that. I like that option. That's really cool.
Yes, exactly. I think she's okay. I'm not like super into this ship. I think it's good, right? You may reroll 1 attack die for each friendly device or calculating friendly ship. If you run a bunch of Y-Wings or you run somebody like a Rose Tico or something like that, like I see this as a benefit. You know, this would be better in CIS.
You're right, Syke. That does sound good.
You know, Chris, that Star Fortress that nobody ever seems to play.
There you go. Put this. That is true, right? That is true. I don't know, because in Scum this would be really good because you have Captain Nim, right? You can do this, but you also have delayed fuses. So what they're trying to do is bring this delayed fuse thing back, right? And I've played with delayed fuses in CIS. Like I've used them with my tubs, the ones that can shoot the bomb out the front or the device out the front. You can drop a proxy and delay fuse it and fly through it right off your rock. Won't go off to the next turn. And if you do it properly, you can jam somebody up, and then immediately they have to hit it the next turn to some extent, right? So there's all sorts of crazy things you can do.
Psych J in the chat bringing up C3P Rose and BB-8 pods would be good companions to this.
And real quick, just wanted to make sure that because we are doing some rule stuff. Next time that device would go off, Chris is saying if you fly over it, it immediately unfuses on the proximity mine. So if somebody comes through right behind you, boom, they blow up. So you don't have to wait till next turn.
Yes.
But like on a bomb, like here's what he's saying, where it would go off, boom, that takes the fuse away. And it was a little confusing. I just wanted to make sure people were there.
Yep, and
Yes.
NIM works the
Sorry.
same way, but that's Scum, not Resistance, so you'll never see that pairing.
Right.
No, you won't.
Interesting.
No, you won't see it in
Interesting.
CIS either.
I mean, it's going to make, like Charles said, I think an ion cannon on this would be, ion cannon turret, sorry, would be very nice. And actually, there's no reason you couldn't run other kinds of cannons too. Nope, you can't. That wouldn't work with this, but still.
But here's the
Ion
other
cannon
benefit
turret
to
would be
this,
nice.
especially with the turret attack, is you could have that pointed out your rear arc. So you're dropping bombs, and then all of your bombs are within your arc because you're pointed out the rear as you're flying away from them. So now you have rerolls for days, especially if you're dropping thermals or...
You would have to fuse them, Charles, so...
Hold on, though.
Yeah, I mean, but you could thermal and then fuse one of your thermals. You could, if you had multiple bombers in a list.
Hold on, but you would have to shoot out the back. It does say friendly ship in the attack arc. Sorry, let me go back to it on the screen.
Right. Yeah,
it says
has to
the
be in
attack arc.
the attack arc. Mhm.
So if you were attacking out your front and not your rear turret, it would not work.
Yeah, that's
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like if you had an ion cannon turret pointed out the back,
oh, absolutely,
then you could shoot your ion cannon through the bombs you just laid.
Yep.
Right.
So
Especially if you knew people were
you're
coming
right.
and following.
So question
Yeah,
for
this
you
is
guys,
like kind of ultimate area denial.
and this is one that I don't know. So this is an honest, I can't tell you you're right, I can't tell you you're wrong. It's just an honest question. If you drop a cluster mine out of the field, that is 3 separate templates that formulate the cluster mine.
Ooh.
Does that count as 3 separate devices that you would be shooting through, or is it one singular device? Because you're dropping 3 separate bombs that each go off individually. They each trigger. So if you do a 1 forward and you only hit the first one, the other 2 don't go off in sequence. They only go off when you fly through them. So do their individualities cause this to give you 3 rerolls as long as you're shooting through?
Okay, so hold on. I can answer that question. Hold on. This is what the cluster mine token card says. A cluster mine set consists of 3 individual cluster mine devices. So the answer to your question is yes, Charles.
Cluster mine is 3 rerolls.
Yep. Yeah, which
you
makes
don't have to
sense.
fuse
cluster mines. I'm excited.
Yes, you don't have to fuse those because they're mines.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And they lowered the points on them recently too, which is good because they were a little high. So I like them the tiny bit lower. I think that we actually might start seeing some play with them.
Oof.
I like cluster mines. I recently started messing around with Connor nets. Connor nets are fun.
Yeah, I like Connor nets too, actually. I agree with you on that. I think Connor nets should be a lot more prevalent. I wish they had 2 charges, though. That's my one gripe about Connor nets. Give me 2 charges. I don't care if you double the points. Give me double points and give me 2 charges. Because Connor nets, you have to be so precise. If you F up, it's done and over with. It's there.
Especially with that weird shape as well.
Yes. It's different shape than anything else we've ever dealt with. Though in the new pack, there is this new cloud thing that we don't know what it is. So I'm guessing it's a new bomb, but I could be wrong. Nobody else seems to think that. I think it's a new bomb, though.
Well, it looked like there was a new like debris canister almost kind of thing too.
I think that's the new bomb
canister.
Yeah. It looks like something like it. It's not like a spare parts canister, obviously, because it's a little different shape. So it is not that, but it is reminiscent of something like that. So it could be a bomb. Chris is right.
Cannot be recovered.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't recover Connor nets either.
Yep, no reloading Connor nets.
No. I agree. No. Unfortunately. I would agree that maybe that would be a benefit.
Lots of good stuff for Resistance at FO coming out. As a Scum player, I'm salty. As a lover of X-Wing in general, I'm excited to be able to see some of the way this works and see how some of these pan out. I hope to see some of them competitively. I hope to see some of them just playing randoms and see how people whose minds work differently than mine can pair these with, like... Because, again, we live in a time where people are using Amel and Holdo to put stealth or cloaking devices on Rey. Maybe there's combos out there that I'm not seeing. that will
Well, hey,
allow
you
these to throw them around. So
you already talked about that Illicit too, and that Illicit is a big thank you to the Scum community. That right there is going to be very, very, very
yep.
big.
The only problem
All
is
right.
I have to buy a ship that I'll never fly in order to get get
No,
it.
well, think about it this way. That's what Matt did. Matt actually did that, Charles. Matt did that with Zam. Matt doesn't fly Separatist, bought it for Zam crew. And then, oh, by the way, the next squadron pack that they released had Zam crew in it. He didn't even
course
need the
it
fire spray and the
Didn't
damn
need it.
cards.
Fair enough. I mean, to be fair, as
That's
a
right, I didn't know
1.0
that.
player, I have bought so many stupid
Right.
A-Wings and other ships to get the upgrade cards that I needed for a squad that I run on to run, that like having to buy a ship to get something. The only thing I'm upset about is depending on if this comes, I think this is in the Resistance, that's a 2-ship pack.
Yep,
So
it is.
it's not going to be cheap to get this upgrade unless you
$30.
have a friend who is a Resistance player that maybe would be willing to part with that upgrade in order to get their Y-Wings. So if you're a Resistance player who has
Well,
no
yeah.
interest in this Illicit, please hit me up. I'll be more than happy to work out a deal with you.
I'll tell you what,
and
I'll sell it to you
also
for
too,
$25, Charles. 25 bucks.
I'll just buy the ships. Thanks.
It'll
I
be
was gonna say, look
$40.
for
It'll save you
the
15. I'll ship it
yeah.
for free too. How about that?
No, it's
Oh,
is it
well,
2
you're
ships?
such
You
a
said it was a
benevolent
2-ship
soul.
set, guys.
It is. It's
it
2
2
Y-Wings.
ships?
2
Then it's
Y-Wings.
likely to be $30. Is what it's likely to be.
I'm wagering 50.
I would venture 40.
Sorry.
I'd venture 40.
Well,
39.99.
usually a small base ship is $20, so it's not going to be
so
more than 40.
No. I don't see it being more than 40, but I don't see it being less than 35 at max.
All right, so if
I don't
it's 30, Charles, I'll charge you $20 and you get free shipping and you can have that card.
Thank you so
I would
much
be
for your
surprised if they
benevolence,
don't start with like
sire.
some. I'd be surprised if we don't start seeing some like card packs come out soon.
I don't know.
Some of these.
We will see.
Some of these. I mean, because that card, if there's only 1 or 2 of them, like the most sets have been, how are you supposed? You're going to have to what? How many of those you're going to have to buy? And if it's Charles, for instance, how many is he going to have to buy? And he doesn't even play those factions. That's so many ships. So many ships.
To be fair, what I would do if I did that, right? I would probably donate the ships themselves as prize support or something of that nature. Because I don't need the ships, I just need the upgrade cards. Or maybe this will return the previously eBay community of people who buy multiples of ships to be able to paint them and have no need for the cards whatsoever. They just buy the ships to strip them and paint them for their own custom needs.
Sure.
And they sell play sets of them, a set of 4 for 10, 15 bucks.
Interesting.
Maybe we'll return to that. I don't know.
It'd be
Because there's a
super
lot of
awesome if
people
they
out there
put-
who bought the Carillion Corvette just to get 3PO, and then a month and a half after it came out, it was a prize support card
Right.
for organized play. So
Yeah. I wouldn't count my chickens on organized play though, if it were me personally. So we'll see. They got 2 more months until we hit third quarter or fourth quarter. They said there'd be local in-store stuff by then. If we don't start seeing that stuff, I'm telling you what, I'm not ecstatic for that. But that's I think a different conversation.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation that I don't think we all agree on. So
Right. Well, I'm wondering if maybe there's maybe some pressure on that, honestly, to not do that.
well, I'm hoping that's the case, but it would just be awesome if you're AMG, just go, hey guys, we can't do this right now, and here's why: because we're not going back into lockdown. Okay, fine, right? I don't care. And when I start seeing my concerts shut down, then I'll know for a fact that that's true. But until then, they literally could be communicating so much better. I mean, the LSO ran on its own OP, right? And to be honest with you, to be perfectly frank, FFG or AMG would be better to literally just name like a community team that is volunteer only, unpaid, but you get to promote your crap for free to run these type of things and set up these events. And then you could coordinate with each country. It'd be the overhead on that would be minimal. You could still do all the prize support, and that's all you have to worry about. But again, I'll be honest, AMG style of competitive play is nil, and I'm not super excited that they're the ones that have taken this over. So
I don't know what is happening where you guys are. I can speak for the state that I live in, which is widely controlled by a rodent. And the rodent has mandated masks are back in place, which means most of our commercial establishments, game stores, grocery stores, gas stations, whatever, are also now requiring them, even if you have had the vaccine. So last Wednesday, when I went to my in-person play, where we had previously not required any sort of facial covering because Florida doesn't care. Florida exists in our own time bubble of reality. We still, all 7 or 8 of us that were in the room playing X-Wing together, all had face coverings, even though we've all had the vaccine. So if we are entering back into lockdown, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I will tell you though, in Michigan, they're only recommending people wear face masks. So I have been wearing mine in like the stores again. Not at people's houses yet, but I am wearing them in the stores. If I go into a restaurant, to pick something up, I've been wearing mine. I don't go many places, so we have to wear them at work still.
Generally, I haven't been inside my office since March of 20. March of 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to another topic tonight. I think one of the things, and I don't know, do we want to do the Academy phase first? Is that what we want to hit?
It's up to you. We're at an hour, gentlemen. Just a heads up.
All right. So let's hit the Academy phase real quick. So tonight, what we wanted to talk about is a little bit different, right? What we wanted to do is have a conversation a little bit about moving from a casual to semi-experienced play, right? And I only say this because I think what's important is understanding, do you want to do more than just casually play? And so I'm going to give a little bit of a background, kind of what this came from. So we did a in-person gathering on Monday this week where we all got to play different lists. We got to play together. There was no restrictions. I played this gentleman that had just started. He hasn't been playing for more than 2 months. I guarantee it. And he only plays 1 to 2 or 3 lists. And him and I were talking, and I asked him some questions. I said, "Well, as you're playing this, what are you looking for, right? As a new player, are you just here to have fun? Do you want to learn how to play all the different factions? Do you know what your play style is? Do you have any interest in learning any of that?" Because I thought he'd be a great guinea pig for the show. And him and I were talking, and what he was telling me is that he likes the casual style, but he just wants to make sure he wins a little bit more often, right? So what we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit about moving into that experience realm where you can win 1 or more games, but you're probably not at the top tier, right? You're not going to sit at a top cut all the time. You're not going to constantly win tournaments. Those are the people we don't usually talk about that because none of us have ever, landed first place at a tournament that's bigger than a local store event. So I know, Charles, you have. So we'll grant Charles the title for what it is. But for Matt and I, who haven't had any bloody store tournaments at all, except for one in the last year and a half, unfortunately, we are at a little bit of a disadvantage. So I thought it would be a good kind of open discussion to kind of say, hey, these are the things I feel, or these are the things that we all feel as a group that are, way you can like up your game without having to get into the super competitive side. Because I think that's big, right? If you want to be super competitive, there's a whole difference. But if you don't, and you just want to be able to win a few games, there's kind of different levels or phases that you can kind of be at, right? So the first thing that we think of is practice, right? And when I was talking with this gentleman, he was explaining to me what he's been doing at home. He's like, well, I only play here a couple of times we have. And he's like, but I've been playing at home with some of my family members. Now, if I could get my family members in my bloody household to actually play games with me more often, it would be a lot more fun. He at least gets that. And what he's doing is he's saying, well, I'm only going to run this one type of list. So essentially what he did is he run Fen Rao, he runs some sort of a Hawk in Scum, and then he ran... What did he run? I can't remember. What did he run now, Matt?
It's old
T-Rock M3As based on that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was old T-Rock. No, it wasn't 3 M3As. Man, now I can't remember. Now I feel bad.
Was it the TIE Fighters, Chris?
No, he didn't have TIE Fighters. He had one Hawk essentially, and then he had bomb carriers of some sort. I don't know, something that's it's all 2.0 type stuff.
Mhm.
that came together. Anyway, so essentially what he was doing is he
Well, it
was
could have been
used to.
bombers.
It could have been Y wings. I'm sorry. There you go.
Yeah, why
And
wouldn't
the Y
Okay.
and 2 Y wings. So that's what he was running. 2 Y wings, a Hawk, and a Fen and an old Turok. You're right. It was not Fenrir. It was old Turok because he actually missed a few triggers, and I felt bad because it's like old Turok is easier to remember the triggers than some of these other ships are. But you know, he was so new. It was like, all right, hey, remember you can strip one of my tokens. I'm running Jedi's. You can take my focus. You know, take my focus, man, because you don't want a 4-die range 1 shot from a Jedi into your Y wing because you get 1 green dice. I get 4 red. Just trust me. Anyway, so we were talking about it, and he says for him the big thing is take it to be able to take that step is to be able to practice. So there's 2 aspects about practicing, right? 1, practice the list you want to run. Pick a list, say this is what I want to run. This is what I want to do really well at. For me, it was droid swarms, right? I loved running the droid swords. There you go. That's kind of what it is. For right now, my kick is Jedi's. I don't know what to tell you. It's those stupid little Aether sprites. I just love those things so much. I love those. I love them.
Fun.
I love them. They are one of my favorite. And anyway, those are good ships to deal with if you want to learn how to play a little bit more AC without having to be super ace Kylo or super ace Anakin type thing. But essentially, I've been practicing, and that's what he's been doing. This gentleman has been practicing his list over and over and over again. And I can tell you, even though he may not have remembered his old Turok trigger all the time, he sure as hell remembered his coordinate triggers that he had on his Hawk. And he was able to utilize those multiple times to jam me and get rid of my focuses. So even though Turok wasn't jamming, they sure as heck were jamming. And, you know, forcing me to either get rid of a target lock or a focus. So,
very handy.
So for you guys, what are your let's go around the table and let's each just kind of say one. So Matt, what is for you when you were trying to move from saying, hey, I'm going to casually run ships down the table and try to kill Chris to I actually want to kill Chris with a strategy, not just because I rolled better dice. What was one thing for you that you enjoyed or that helped you move to that level?
Ooh, good question. I'm not at that level still, so we'll see. No, for me, I think that learning about other ships, even if I didn't fly them, by watching games, like for instance, our streamed games on Thursday nights, but other games other than that, but to watch other games, to read some of the cards, to make lists of other things, even if I had no intention of running them. But just to pull up Yasby on my phone when I had 5 minutes sometimes and to kind of look through the different lists, to kind of read and to watch other people play and learn how they do their interactions, and see what those triggers might be. So, I mean, not that I'm an expert at it or anything like that, but sometimes when you look at across the table, you're like, okay, that with that means you can do this, and this with that means, you know, this is going to happen. So basically I'm going to end up with a bunch of double tapping such and such, or, you know, or this ship's going to try to get a free lock and shoot proton torpedoes at me at range 3 because it's an E-wing. You get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So basically learning interactions for me.
Charles, how about you?
So my biggest, I think, transition came from practicing openings, having a set, like you said, practicing your list, learning other ships so you know what you're facing, that sort of thing. But having a set, and I'll give a for instance. There was a period there where I flew CIS for a minute because it was competitive,
what
and
room was that?
I flew Zam, Brewer Kret,
that's right.
and General Grievous. And every game, without fail, I opened the exact same way. The reason being is no matter who you sit across from the table, there's always some level of intimidation game, whether they're doing it intentionally or not. And having a comfort level with your first 2 or 3 maneuvers, leaving yourself options. And what I mean by that is if you have a big base ship and you can set yourself at an angle to where, depending on how your opponent comes in, you can one turn to go away, you can one turn to go toward, you can bank in a specific direction, but leaving yourself options. and just practicing those opening maneuvers where rocks can be placed, where you want your first rock placed to allow you the maximum number of maneuvers available so that you are comfortable in those first couple of turns. And the reason I'm focusing on those first couple of turns, I'll quote Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Everybody builds their list around some sort of trigger that they want to happen. And then they switch up their opening moves. They get an engagement they didn't like. And all of a sudden, their linchpin ship, their Fen Rao, their Boba Fett, their Bosk, their Brewer Kret, their whatever gets ghosted. At range 3 with a focus, dice just go bad, right? So you want to be able to control your openings. You want to be able to control what you're doing there. So for me, not even playing full rounds. A lot of times what I'll do with our other host, John, you'll see him on here from time to time. I will get into a game with John, and we will set a 15-minute timer, and we will run openings. And we'll discuss why we're doing what maneuver we're doing. And at that 15-minute timer, we will draw everything back, set the ships up again, and run openings. Just resetting, getting that first engagement in, finding out what shots you can take, what shots you want to avoid, where you want to be, and learning the spacing of your ships, where you can barrel roll, where you can't, where that 3 bank is going to take you. Because it's great to look at a table and go, oh, I might be able to get a 3 bank. It's even better to look at a table and go, nope, I know for a fact that I'm behind this rock and it's more than 5 away from the edge of the mat. So I can do a 5K here or a 4K, and I know I'm not going off the edge of the map. And when you have that confidence to know what you're doing, it allows you the freedom to really pay attention to what your opponents are doing rather than trying to figure out your next step. So that, for me, that was the biggest change in my gameplay, is when I really started getting to the intricacies of the first couple of engagements that most people ignore because you're not shooting. So what does it matter where I end up? But those are your setup phases. Those are your opening chess moves that set up your deeper game and how everything was set up for you. So that's mine.
All right, awesome. I think another option that we could kind of look at too is developing what you like to play, right? And I think this is, I'm going to pick on Matt a little bit because I can. But Matt is a player that has played almost every type of style that is available to X-Wing. Matt has not found a style that Matt 100% loves, thinks it's the best thing ever, other than I think Matt likes aces. I think aces fit Matt's play style a little bit better for the most part when they don't get aced off the board themselves. But I think that's where Matt goes to. Now, to Matt's credit, Matt spent, I don't know, a year and a half playing against me mostly, and then, Charles and John and a few other people online, but Matt hasn't had a chance to walk into the world 100% of the time. But Matt has played every different type of style. Whereas I kind of focus on swarmish type things, bulky things where if I make a mistake, it's not the end of the world, right? Like, oh no, one of my droids bumped. Oh, it doesn't get a calculate token. It can just use somebody else's. Kind of sounds like a cheat to me. I don't know. Like, somebody told me that was a cheat maneuver, but I'm just saying is they're out there.
Working to its strengths.
Working to its strengths. Thank you. That's the title of it. We're going to retitle this episode, Working to Its Strengths. But I think that's one of the things is Matt has spent a lot of time practicing different types of styles of play. And another, to pick on Matt a little bit more, but another good example of that is Matt likes those SF ships in FO. That's one of the Matt ran those ships for so long. Love those things. Concussion missiles, shoot them out your ass, shoot them out the front. We're gonna nail you to the wall. They just don't put out enough consistent firepower to be meta capable. But Matt's found he loves running those. Those are one of the things Matt actually enjoys running. Same kind of with the V1s. Before the V1s were even popular, Matt was playing with V1s with concussion missiles. If we had only thought of the Prockets, for Christ's sake, we would have won so many tournaments well before them. But Matt, minus
that would have been fun, right? I do love those ships. Yeah.
But Matt's done those things. So my one of my, the next tip I have is play different styles, learn what fits your personality best. In my personality, I like to have the extreme complexity because it keeps my brain busy because I'm thinking of 7 moves or 6 moves all my ships can do. So if I got 8 droids, I got to think of all these different moves. How do I keep them on the board? How do I maneuver them to stop everybody? I want the complexity because it keeps my mind active. When I run 3 aces, I could to some extent go, all I know is I need to arc dodge you and be able to get a shot in. I don't actually even care if I got a mod. I only care about arc dodging and getting a shot. And running away. right. And so ace style play is a little bit different. And you have to, but the difference is if you make a mistake, you're screwed. What I learned is when I make a mistake, I get pretty angry. So I hate myself, and then I start double focusing on every bloody mistake I made. Every bloody mistake I made. And then what happens is I screw up even more, and I start losing. And then when I start losing, then I get really angry in a tournament style, right? If we're just playing for fun, I sure as heck don't. And then it's like, yeah, you know what? That was a mistake. But hey, the best part is if you kill me quicker, I get to play another game. Like, that's all I care. I get to play another game. Right. So as soon as I get to get my revenge. So I make a mistake with my Jedi. Matt wipes a Jedi off the board. First engagement, I go, fudge, that's not going to work. Next thing you know, I go ahead and make another opportune error, get angry, and then I go, you know what? It doesn't matter because if he takes 2 out of these 4 off the board, the game's going to be over really quick. Or I'm going to concede and say, let's reset, like Charles was saying. So I think that's one of the big things.
I want to say there's a movie that has Keanu Reeves in it called The Replacements. This is really off topic, so I apologize. But in the movie, they talk about quicksand being any competitive player's biggest fear, because you drop a pass, or you throw the ball long, or you don't hit the ball the way you want to, and that becomes your focus for the rest of the game. The next time someone throws a pass at me, am I going to drop it again? The next time that I got to roll these dice, am I going to roll all blanks? The next time, am I going to remember the trigger that I forgot that caused that ship to get blown up? Whatever the case may be, your own negative self-talk gets in the way. And because you're so focused on that, the next move, oh crap, I forgot he was stressed and I dialed in the 4K. So instead of doing the 4K, now I do a 2 straight. Oh, that was stupid of me. Oh, I forgot to take this action. Oh, I completely forgot this trigger. And it's just a slowly sliding downhill slope of your own negative self-talk. Because your opponent's across the table going, wow, that sucked. Let's move on to the next move. And in your head, you're still stuck on the mistake that you made. And it drags you down. I've done it. There was a regional tournament where I barrel rolled Fenrau into range 3 with a focus. And watched him get ghosted in the first round of engagement at range 3 with a focus. And I ended up winning that match because I pulled myself back out and forced myself to focus on the Star Viper and the Kiraz that I had left on the table. But in that moment of watching my dice come up 4 blanks on a range 3 shot with a focus, all I could think about was this match is over. Fenrau's gone. What's the point? This match is done. This match is over. But the other thing you've got to think about too is on the other side of that table, when they capitalize on that mistake, steer into that skid. Let them get overconfident. Let them think, oh, I just took out the piece that you couldn't live without. And let them over pursue and then drop a proxy mine right on their face, or drop a counter net when they're range 1 of the edge of the board.
So there's a tip from Charles, everybody, and it's a phenomenal one, right? So, shit happens, and when it inevitably does happen, which it will happen to everybody that plays, it is to continue. And I'm not about to say I have a hard time with this personally, but don't let it tilt you, is what he's saying. You fight back out of it, or look at the positive of it, or try to come back. So that is a pro tip. Regardless of where he started with the replacements, that is a solid pro tip. It is to even if you do lose an integral piece at the very beginning, don't let it stop you. Nice, good one.
Yep. And the last one that I have, and this is the title of the episode, is patience. Patience. Patience and more patience. And I will tell you, I'm not a patient person. I am not. And you can ask Matt that. I've never thrown anything. I've had cards thrown at me. I've never actually done that though. But patience is I am not. Patience is the key. And learning how you can become more patient, right? And I think some of this goes into, the sad part is if you want to play competitively, right, you have to spend the money to get into tournaments. And then, some people take that as a negative. Well, I just spent $15 and I'm not getting anything out of this and this and that. But it's the patience. It's like, what is your ultimate goal? If your ultimate goal is to start topping at tournaments, you have to have the patience to develop and learn that. If your goal, I'm sorry. If your goal is to essentially just be a little bit more than a few locals at your group, patience will help you do that. Because, and again, that guy, after we finished, that guy goes, okay, well, did you see anything I did that, I could have done better? And I'm sitting here going, I don't know why you're asking me, because I've only been playing a year and a half. But yes, there is a couple of times, like you 4K'ing your Y-Wing versus just rotating your turret. You just took yourself out of, shooting. And yes, you got away from your bombs. I get it. But you just took yourself out of shooting with 2 ships out of a 4-ship list where I still had everybody alive. And I said that was a big mistake aspect on there. The other side of the thing, though, I said where you excelled is you had old Tarak on an angle right in front of my ship. You were able to coordinate a boost action, which allowed him to boost and focus and get a shot on another ship and get away from the one ship I had you pinned with. Amazing, right? Because you bumped into that ship. Did you plan that? He said, no, I saw that later. But it was that patience of him getting frustrated because he hit my ship and got blocked, because that's what I do. I block people. That's like my favorite thing to do in the game. I don't actually care about winning. I only care about blocking people. But he then was able to come back with his, with it, whatever scum ship that was that allowed him to coordinate and jam. And he used Hondo, and essentially he was able to jam the one ship I had as well as coordinate a boost. It fit. He got a linked focus action, and there you go. And that didn't end the ship, but it took me to half points on that one Jedi because that Jedi didn't have a focus no more. So, I think that's one of the things is understanding where the patience comes in. How can you have patience at it? And I think that's the big thing is flying what you like, practicing, understanding your opponent's list, understanding where you want to be, creating more well-rounded things, and not getting tilted on round 2, or we'll say engagement 2. And I won't lie, I've been that person. You can ask Matt. I've never rage quit, but I have 100% said, all right, we're done with the match. Just reset and let's begin, because there's no way I'm going to win. I don't have an interest in playing this out, even if it makes you feel good. And I'll say that to people. Yep. I don't care.
Right. Well, and I did want to real quickly jump from the chat. Psych J says he's lost horribly in a match to like 5 A-Wings in the first match, and then came back to win 8 in a row to win top table in a tournament. So it's all about, and he says, it's good to have a short memory span, right? So some things you want to forget, like what we're talking about here, right, is, yeah, you want to forget that match immediately, but then what did you learn from it, right? So that's another thing. Take what you learned, bring it in, but don't let it make what you're doing completely useless. So well said, Psych, well said.
Fair enough. So let's move into, I don't know, what phase should we do? Let's do system malfunction.
Sounds good.
All right. So Charles, tonight you're going to be doing our system malfunction. So the question I have for you is, how do you want to start, and do you need me to bring TTT up or Yasby, or what do you need me to bring up to help you with this?
I think I'm going to start with like what scares me on the other end of the table. And this kind of pairs into the whole mindset of having a short-term memory. So normally when I play in what I would consider to be the major premier tournaments right now, which are the Gold Squadron tournaments, right? I tend to have the stream up because not only am I playing, but I'm also supporting Dion. I'm supporting Marcel and the guys. They're awesome dudes. I've met most of them face-to-face once or twice when I lived up north. So I want to support the stream. So I'll have it running muted on my Twitch app for my smart TV. And I'll often make note of what the lists are. Normally, that doesn't bite me. Normally, it's not something that I worry about because as much fun as it is to practice against meta lists, when you're a 3-3 player like I am, right? I'm not the greatest player in the world. Sometimes I get lucky and I have hot streaks and I do win a local store tournament with a weird list or something like that. But on a premier level, I don't win. I've gone 4-2 once. Every other one I end up either 2-4 or 3-3, middle of the pack, and I'm okay with that. But there was the list I talked about earlier with Amel and Holdo, and I watched that on the stream, and I lost my mind because I'd never seen anybody use that combo. I'd never seen that combo played ever. It was not something that I was familiar with or ready to fly against. And then the very next round, I drew that list that was on the stream, and immediately was already like, there's no way I can win this match. I don't know the workarounds for this. I don't know how to get done. There's no way I can win. And I fulfilled my own prophecy in that. So what scares me across the other end of the table are meta lists. When I run across like rando stuff that I've never seen before, I don't care because it's going to be fun. But when you sit down in front of a Nantex list or a Droid Swarm list or something that is the meta staple, something that a lot of people are playing, or the name of the person. If I'm sitting across from Ali Pocknell, if I'm sitting across from Marcel Manzano, or if I'm sitting across from somebody whose name I know from the community, just due to random name draw, it can psych me out. So for me, what scares me most about the other end of the table is the popularity of the person or the list that I'm playing against can drive me out of my own mind state.
Yeah.
So I think that's what scares me the most. It's never the list itself, because it's just plastic ships. I don't get that way, but it's just like if I were to go to, I don't know, a bowling tournament and see the top PGA bowler sitting at my little local tournament because he wanted to slum with the low guys and earn some side cash while he's passing through town. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you can get kind of pegged out like that. But that, for me personally, that's what scares me the most across the table. Other than that, one of the biggest things that I came to realize early on, I pay $15 to play X-Wing. I don't pay $15 to win X-Wing. And it took me a long time, because I'll be honest with you, when I played 1.0, my first 12 store tournaments that I went to, I didn't win a game unless it was a buy round. But I still went to every one of them, and I still played every single round that I possibly could in them, because you learn from doing, especially with X-Wing. X-Wing is, we could sit here and talk all night, but if we never set a ship to a table, whether it's virtually or realistically, we learn nothing. X-Wing is a game of doing. Just like anything else in life, you learn the most from taking those reps. So for me, I pay $15 to play X-Wing for 6 rounds, right? And I'm going to, unless I'm playing in like an Irish time zone tournament or something that starts at 3 a.m., then I'm playing X-Wing to see what I can do and then give up if I don't have something that's going to make the cut because I want to go to sleep. But for me, like I said, getting your mindset to what you want to achieve and setting that realistic, what do they call them? Your
Realistic goals.
yeah, but there's like a business like buzz phrase term,
Benchmark, maybe?
specific, timeliness, star goals, something like that, achievable, something, some buzzword that they use in American businesses that are blah. But setting a realistic goal, if it's your first store championship and you're coming in because you're going to win, I don't know.
Likely to happen.
Yeah, but if it's your first store championship and your goal is to win 2 games and you win your first 2, then the rest of the day is bonus. If you lose your first 2 and then you win your next 2, you've still achieved that goal. Set realistic goals for what you want to do. You're not going to sit down at a galactic qualifier and go you're going to go undefeated in your very first tournament when you've only been playing for 2 or 3 months. It's probably not going to happen. As far as broken combos with the new cards, we kind of went over that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm super excited for that illicit upgrade and to see what tomfoolery I can get involved with being able to recharge that using Cutthroat or Java and seeing where I can fit that in to make it fun. Callbacks from 1.0. Let's go there because I think that's going to be fun. So stuff that was broken in 1.0 that I think 2.0 could have fun with and maybe improve. 1.0 suffered really, really hard with the fact that everything was printed on a physical card and there was no virtual mindset. So if you wanted to errata something or you wanted to do something, it was very difficult to do. But one of the cards that I honestly would like to see come back, I'd like to see TLT come. And I can hear the groans from 1,000 star systems that all cried out once. Bees and snakes. Thanks, guys. But I want to see TLT come back. So for those who don't know, TLT was a turret weapon that allowed you to roll 3 dice and then cancel any succeeding die roll to deal 1 damage. So you would roll 3 dice. If you got past, it didn't matter if you rolled 3 hits and they blanked out. You did 1 damage. And then you got to do it again. So it was 2 shots per round. It was always a bonus attack. The maximum amount of damage that you were going to get was 2 damage from that ship. Where it breached into brokenness was 2 things. 1, 3 dice attacks are ridiculously powerful. At range 1, you couldn't fire it. So it was a range 2-3 attack only, if memory serves. You could not fire it at range 1. So you never got a dice bonus out of it. And in 1.0, turret attacks were 360 degrees. There was no rotating my turret to make sure you're in arc. You just were. You were always in arc. Period. End of story. Now, ship upgrades like auto thrusters came into play because if you were out of the primary arc or beyond range 2, you got a free evade. So they created a bunch of stuff to try to offset the turret meta that existed at that point. But I think where 2.0 allows you to have fun with that is A, make it a 2 dice attack instead of a 3 dice attack. So you got a 50-50 shot of doing 1 damage, and your opponent has a decent capability to maybe avoid 1, or maybe make it 3 on your first shot, 2 on the second. Restrict it to large base. Exactly, Psych J. Restricting it to maybe a large base only, so you're not going to see a swarm, because that was a big thing in 1.0 was Scum Y-Wings. You could run 4 Y-Wings with TLT on it, and then you had a block that had a 360-degree arc. But maybe diminishing returns, like I said. So 3 dice on your first attack, but then if you took the second shot, it went down to 2 to make it easier to avoid the second shot. Something like that, I think, would really, would really be something that I think could be fun. Something that I think could be useful in our current game state. Because turrets are now a rotatable arc. So in order for me to be able to take that, I have to make sure you're going to be where I want you to be in order to shoot. And
what maybe only being used in I kind of agree with not the whole premise of it, but what would be neat is if it were like a 2 or 3 dice gun, that's fine. If it were only range 2 to 3, that would be interesting. You could call it the TLT, that's fine. But I'm just saying, just as a callback, but why wouldn't maybe just try it? Because no other turret goes to range 3, right? So maybe make it a 2 or 3 dice gun, but maybe only make it 2 or 3. Would that be adequate to you? Or is it a must-do, like, auto damage kind of thing?
No, it's not. And that's the thing, is just waxing poetic about what we could do differently to make it competitive, because we still want it to be played. Right? We don't want it to be so overpowered that it's 10 points for a turret, but we also don't want it to be so underpowered that no one uses it because is it really worth rolling 2 dice for the chance of getting 1 damage? No. I personally, as a player, will shoot an ion cannon over my regular shot because I have 1 extra die to be able to try and peg that damage through. So maybe 3 on the first shot, 2 on the second. You know what I mean? A damage is a damage, but there are many ways that you could play with it. Another card that I would like to see, and the major change that I would make to this card, is that it would be only available to generic pilots. That was a 1.0 staple. And by staple, I mean physically stapled to other cards, was Veteran Instincts. For those who don't know, Veteran Instincts was an elite pilot talent that fit the talent slot that allowed you to increase the pilot skill of the person flying the ship by 2. So you could take... Now, granted, again, in 1.0, it went to 9, right? So we had from 1 to 9 as far as our pilot limit. So I would say adding 1 to a generic pilot. So you're not going to put it on Luke. You're not going to put it on Vader. They're already aced out, right? You're not going to take an ace higher, right? We already have
that's
cards
not true.
that do that.
Like, think about you could change Kylo Ren in the silencer to 6 instead of 5.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Is if I were to make it a 2.0 card,
right,
I would make it generic only.
Gotcha.
So you could take a 1 to a 2, a 2 to a 3, a 3 to a 4.
From a 4 to a 5.
You could take a Skull Squadron from a 4 to a 5. But again, I would only give you the 1 point increase because we've squashed the range of pilots from 1 to 6 instead of 1 to 9. And maybe limited. So 1 ship gets it instead of spamming it on everything. Because Veteran Instincts in 2.0 allowed me to take Fen Rao, who already shot a 9, and push him to 11, or get Han Solo into 10 instead of 9. So you could, and it was on everybody. Like that and PTL were stapled to like every ship. And they negated the need for PTL because now we have linked actions.
So what you're saying is you want the Force upgrade to be universal. That's what you're saying.
What?
There's a Force upgrade that allows you to
shoot at 7.
Heightened perception.
Yeah. That's all you're saying.
I'm not saying that I want you to be able to push to 7. I'm saying that giving 1, like make it limited to 1 ship, give 1 generic pilot a boost for 3 or 4 points to put them up. So you could run a Skull Squadron Fang at a 5 instead of a 4. Or you could run an M3A at a 3 instead of a 2. It doesn't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, but being able to, say, take any generic pilot that I want, like with the generic fire sprays at 2. If I can push that to a 3, that opens up a lot more options of ships that I can pair with it at that same pilot skill to run different lists.
Yeah, see, and I would say this is where I would disagree and say if it were me, I'm okay with making it limited, and that's fine. But what I would 100% say is that I don't care. I want it to be like the Force upgrade that puts you at 7, but I don't want it to be something that anybody can take. So go back to that elite thing. So it has to be a limited pilot, and that limited pilot could then become a initiative 7. And I would be okay with that. Not for 2 or 3 points, but I would be okay with that.
Definitely not.
Because that would signify, again, I could take Fen Rao and instead of having to worry about a bid. So the idea behind that, right, is to not have to worry about a bid. That's why it's called heightened perception. There you go. And you're using a force to deal with it. So maybe it's something where you would take a stress, allow yourself to run at initiative 7, or maybe it's something you run at initiative 7, lose your action. I don't know. But like it would have to cost you something because heightened perception costs you a force. Period.
Could you see it maybe being like Leia crew, where it's 3 charges, you have to burn all 3 charges to engage to move and engage at a 7, but then you've got 3 turns where you're not able to use it. So it has to be something where you're able to strategically use it when you need to, but know that it's going to take a couple more rounds to build it back up to be able to use it again.
So I agree. Yes, that could be a positive, right? That could be one way to make it a lot more fair. I think 3 is probably silly. I would go closer to like a Gamut Key at 2, right? It's something you can do every other turn. But at the exact same time, I would rather have something that created a negative play experience for you, right? To be able to use it, just like Heightened Perception does. And so how about this? Maybe there's 2 options on there. One, you can either spend all 3 charges to do it, or 2 charges, or whatever it is, or you could spend your 1 charge and then you can't take an action, or something like that. And I think even not taking an action would be silly.
I don't mind that either.
Maybe, and this is where we could get into like negative tokens, right? And that's what you would do, is create some way to create a negative token. And how about this? Or you can make it so it scales based on your blue maneuvers. So somebody like a Kylo who has 1 million bloody blue maneuvers pays more for it than somebody so you're going to get a stress token for using it. Hence, you can't do a red maneuver and get a stress token, right? So you can't use it on a red maneuver, but you could use it on a white maneuver, or you could use it on a blue maneuver, right? And you would get your stress beforehand, and then they would cost more based on how much you're using it, right? Based on what your blue maneuvers are.
So Psych J brings up a really interesting idea that I never thought. Make it a non-recurring charge like Elusive. So you can burn it, but then have some sort of game effect, like you take an action, and when you take an action, you replenish that charge. So it can still be every other round, or you don't have to get it back. So like Elusive, I spend Elusive to re-roll a die, and then I don't get it back till I fully execute a red maneuver.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
So now I am intentionally doing something that's going to negatively impact me to get my ability back. So maybe something like that. Again, I'm not saying these things need to appear in 2.0. I'm just saying there were some cards that were a lot of fun in 1.0.
Yep.
But were really overused. So again, push the limit. Running Fenrir with the ability to boost stress barrel roll was stupid. Or focus stress target lock was stupid. No, push the limit does not need to find its way into 2.0. Linked actions is fine. I'm fine with linked actions. But there are certain things that I would like to see from 1.0 be revamped. And brought into a 2.0, like maybe do like an upgrade pack and call it Blast from the Past, and it's 1.0 upgrades that have been retooled and rebuilt to be thrown into 2.0. I would buy that in a
heartbeat. Back to the Future. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't mind seeing a
if they call it Blast to the Past and they don't put Alicia Silverstone on the cover of the box, I'm gonna be mad. Oh, see, I can do it too, Chris. Hashtag dad joke jail.
There it was. Anyways, so I wouldn't mind seeing a Force upgrade that allowed like a one-time Vader use thing. I think that would be an interesting, like, push the limit kind of like retrograde, where like you can use like one Force to do an additional action.
So my thing with
turn or whatever
with this, with the upgrades that I'm using, I'm intentionally making them as generic as possible because I want every faction available to have them. If we make it a force point style thing, yes, I believe every faction has at least one force user. But do we really need a force upgrade that pushes that? I don't think we do.
I think we do.
I just think it'd be neat. That's all it is. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with Matt on that. Actually, like I would agree with Matt on that. That you could have something that did the same thing that Vader does to some extent, but it doesn't recover. It's a one-time use type thing. It's a 7-point upgrade that you use one time to kill something, to essentially eradicate it. You know, that's a Vader. We call it Vader wannabe action.
There you go.
Who wants to be like Vader?
Else.
Darth Vader, but with the O, like that stupid Lego set that I sent you guys a picture of.
All right.
That would also be cool.
Psych J says a light side ability upgrade that recovers a hull or shield to reflect Rey in episode 9. All right, fair enough. Maybe that would be something. Oh, let's move on. We have at least one more segment we got to cover tonight. And it's going to kind of lead into our Jedha Galaxies. We're going to end the show on that, and we're not going to spend a lot of time because all these other podcasts just cover all the meta lists and things like that, but I want to cover it a little bit because it plays into Matt's What Churns My Dials. All right. So, Matt, what churns your dials tonight?
Well, I don't know. Should you talk about what won first, or should I talk about this first?
No, I think you should talk about this first. I think you should talk about this, and then we'll lead into the Jedha.
So,
I
wanted to do this one a little bit more open ended than we usually do. So, what I'm talking about today, and I guess what turns my dials, and it really does annoy me when I go to play a game. And like Chris said, I do have a tendency to play a fair number of aces. So I have ace builds, so I often play aces. But I do despise when people run away, or what I like to call gun and run tactics, where you jump in, you do your points, and then you run, especially against lists that have absolutely no chance of catching you, or if they do have a chance, they have to put themselves into like horrible situations where you can basically spend 90% of your time running and then, just turn around and basically pop something or whatever it may happen to be. It, to me, allows for a negative play experience for those against you, because if you're lined up against, like, for instance, as we're going to talk about in a little bit here, like a supernatural Kylo, for instance, or a supernatural Vader, or multiple other ships that are just have this high level, high movement ability. A fire spray, honestly, to me, can really be like a Boba Fett, where they really can just absolutely trounce you because they are pushing forward so much faster than you can even possibly chase. Even if you wanted to chase them, you are just never going to be able to catch them. It is all an engagement, all on their terms, and no matter what you do, you are pretty much lost from the get-go. Doesn't matter if you're better at maneuvering your ships, doesn't matter if you're have better firepower, doesn't matter if you have more ships left. The fact that just because they were able maybe to pink in half points on a ship and then run for the rest of the match, you still lose a match, regardless of if you chase them the entire time. So it's not really fortressing. I guess it would be considered portion of fortressing, but it's very interesting. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's
so
like
I wanted to have a kind of yeah. So I kind of wanted to have an open discussion on this one a little bit. So, Chris, you were just there. What do you think about the gun and run, if you will?
So I could tell you it is not my play style. Even with aces, it's not my play style. I do not in any way, shape, or form enjoy it. I hate it. I find it rather annoying. I find it a negative play. For me, it's a somewhat negative play experience. Now, I will tell you it's not, in my opinion, as bad as Torkel Mux, but I will tell you it does rank up there with negative play experiences. And I say that because Torkel Mux essentially says, you're going to get outmaneuvered so that we can ace you off the board, period. So it doesn't matter. So, like, you could take a supernatural Kylo, and if you catch him just right and you Torkel Mux him, he's down. He's down and out, and even if you can ace his ass off the board, you're done. It's done and over with. I hate Torkel Mux so much. Anyway, so in my world, though, I think it's a different style of play, which I encourage. Right, I actually enjoy the variety of styles of play, and as most of you know who are listening to this, I came from playing Star Wars Destiny. There is a play style called mill. People hate that. In a card game world, if you can mill the other player's deck, and then if the game rules state that the player has no cards left, you win. That's an enjoyable experience for me. Everybody hates playing against it, though. It is a huge negative play experience, especially if your mill deck has the ability to avoid damage as well as get rid of cards, right? So it is huge, but I enjoy the side of let's have different play styles. The problem is I don't feel in this style there's a lot of downside. And in my world, what I look at is how many lists does this affect, whether it's meta or non-meta. So if I have, let's say, 700 list combinations and my aces can out ace 90% of those, that's a big problem for me. It's not a different style of play. It is a negative play experience at that time. If that, on the opposite side, though, right, on the opposite side, if those aces only affect 30 or 40% of the lists that can be created, then at that point, it no longer becomes a negative play style, and I can accept it as an alternative play style. Is it my personal one? Weirdly enough, I love mill decks in Star Wars Destiny. In X-Wing, I have no interest in running from my opponents for turns. And that's what we'll talk about in a few minutes with the Jedha Galaxies. We talk about what turns my dials. I'm actually in agreement with Matt almost 100% on this, because to me, the whole point of X-Wing is we have to engage and attack each other in some way, shape, or form. And in that, and to answer your question, Psych J, no, it's not as bad as mobile fortressing, which, so there you go. If you watch the final, here, I'm just going to release it. If you watch the damn final table today, you saw two things. You saw somewhat of a mobile fortress, as you call it, with the HMP ships, where they literally just went in circles until Kylo decided it was going to come get them. And you saw Kylo and Von Reg come in, shoot, and run away. The final game was 48-0. 48-0. 75 effing minutes of 48-0. I have almost never in my life played a game where I've been scored where the score is less than 100. Period. Never. Yeah. That's crazy to me. Yeah. Just saying.
Oh, on the do you care if I weigh in for just a second?
Yeah, of course. But I did want to make one quick variation.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just and I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to say this is illegal in any way, shape, or form. I am not saying that. It is a viable play style. It's just not ours. Obviously, and this is something that upsets me. Definitely viable. Definitely legal. Go ahead, Charles. Sorry.
No worries. So I'm a sports person, right? I enjoy high energy sports. I'm not a big soccer fan. Nothing against the sport at all, but it tends to be a little slower paced than, say, hockey.
There goes all the Europeans, Charles. Thanks.
I know. But I'm bringing in the Canadians, so it's okay.
We just lost 7 subs. What is your problem?
Oh, worse. So hockey is also a very low-scoring game, but very intense and very high impact. If the score winds up 48-0, and it's a matter of 150 red dice are rolled and 150 green dice are rolled, and they balanced out, everybody was using their tokens, and it's a slugfest, and that's what you wind out with,
right?
I'm okay with that.
No issue.
I'm okay with 48-0. 100% okay with it. I'm not okay with 48-0 when you tiptoe around the outside of the mat, you do everything you can to not engage, and you throw range 3 pot shots and just hope that eventually the dice variance that will bring you enough luck to push damage through. Now, on the flip side of this, one of a skill that I've had to learn is when to disengage. So, like, go in for the slugfest, get the points that you need, and then peace out. I'm not a fan of it. I'm an aggressive play style. I like to get in. I play X-Wing because I want to roll dice. I play X-Wing. If there was money on the line, if I paid $15 to get in and I'm going to win $1,000, then yeah, I'm not rolling dice. I'm doing everything I can to stay up on points until there's 3 minutes left and then getting half and staying away. And it's a terrible strategy, but I want the money. I play X-Wing for fun. And the fun in X-Wing for me is trying to roll dice and utilize my list for why I built it. I am not a fan of running. I'm not a fan of anything like that. So for me, it's I don't like the runaway strategy. I don't like the keep your distance strategy. I'll be honest, I've played against Chris with fire sprays that have stealth device on them, and Chris kind of employs the stay away until the stealth device is done. Once he has lost stealth device, Chris's play style with those ships changes dramatically, and he becomes very aggressive because now he doesn't have to keep his distance. But as long as that stealth device is up, he keeps that distance, and it's frustrating. It's very frustrating and that's the intent of it. I don't fault him in any way, shape, or form. It's an amazing list. He flies it extremely well. But I am not a fan of that personally.
Yeah, and I think people are sleeping on stealth device on fire sprays, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I have not obviously
stealth
topped the
device is
tournament
awesome.
to the point where I've Catherine, you got better farther than I did, so I had been top 32, and that's about it. But
Sure.
it goes back to what turns Matt Styles. It's the runaway, it's the non-engagement, and I think the issue goes into the same as fortressing. I don't think the world is falling. So let's highlight this. I don't think the world is falling.
No.
Most people are not going to have any interest in running a Kylo Von Reg runaway list. No, nobody is.
Right.
That's just not a thing.
Right.
And let's switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to bring up, and this is where, okay, come on, computer. Come on, computer.
And also, I did want to also say too, where taking a disengagement turn or two to reset yourself is not, in my opinion, running. With aces, you should be disengaging occasionally and resetting yourself. That is just standard, and that's how it should be played. That is, and there are distinctions.
I think that's okay strategy, man. Like, that's logical. Now, this player, essentially what he did, so here's his score list. His first round was 106-0. That's acceptable. 200-0, 100% acceptable. 97-67, that's pretty acceptable. That's definitely engagement. 71-67, engagement. 200-25, obviously there's engagement there. 101-34, engagement. 134-67, 100-67. Then all of a sudden you get into top 8, 4, and 2, and here's where you see the difference. His top 8 game is 31-0. His top 4 game is 101-34. And his top 2 game, basically his final cut, is 48-0. So he waited, in fairness, he waited to employ that strategy. So he didn't use that strategy in any game until he got closer to the end. And then he started utilizing it when he needed to. So again, the last team he played was 4 HMPs. Okay. I get why you have to play KG, because HMPs can shoot 180 degrees,
And they have a side slip.
And they have a side slip. They can walk around you to some extent.
Well, and it seems like this player also did more engaging as opposed to running. He really did. I'm wondering if maybe this was his winning strategy against a list like that.
Yes, it is.
Maybe that was...
And I was just going to say, I can't say that he ran away, because I watched 2 games of his, and I can't say he always ran away. But for me, I've discussed this on the stream. HMPs are the bane of my existence. I don't my brain does not process how they move. My brain does not process that side slip with the 180 degree arc. It doesn't work. Like, I can know where they're going to go and still fly right into their arc, even though I know what's going to happen and where they're going to be. It just doesn't work. So for me, staying at range 3 and taking pot shots at low agility ships and just praying that I plink 1 damage through a round, it's a strategy that I would employ. If I sat down across HMPs, I'm not above it. I'm not saying that I want to run, because my gut reaction is get in, throw as many red dice as I possibly can, and get back out before I take damage. But as Chris, you can attest, when you flew against my Ada list, I tried to get in, get dice thrown, and get back out, and those are paper airplanes. They went poof. There was nothing left. So it's one of those situations where I'm still not a fan of running. I'm not a fan of fortressing. I lived through the 1.0 fortress meta. You will never get positive statements out of me when it comes to fortressing at all. I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. If you play this game because you want to sit in a corner and do absolutely nothing for the first 45 minutes of a 115-minute tournament or 115-minute tournament game, Just let me know that's what you're going to do in the beginning. I'll scoop, save myself, and go get something to eat. Because there's no reason for me to spend 45 minutes trying to figure out how to get past you and then have you open up and destroy everything. And I've just wasted an hour of my day. Nah, I'll pass. Thanks.
Well, and I think, like I said, I think the strategy was only used when he needed to. So again, there's nothing wrong with this. Your strategy. I will say that, and again, obviously, I'm not an influencer. I'm just giving my opinion as somebody that has dealt with negative play experiences before. That when you spend 90% of your time running, it is a negative play experience. Now, and Charles will test this too. When we played each other, he did try to run with his Anakin for a little while, to some extent, to get out of my arcs. But then he turned around and came back and attacked me. Then it was, nope, I'm going to try to screw you over. I just need to outmaneuver you because, like, I need to crit bot you and auto blast through your ass. Like, there's a difference, right? Charles' strategy, I left Anakin alive on purpose because Anakin's worth the most points, and either it's going to give me a 50-50 game. Either I'm going to hit Anakin and I'm going to have points and win, or I'm not, and I know that Charles played a better game than me. That's just it. It's just simple. Now, to address the HMPs that circle the board, again, if you're going to play somebody that does nothing but run, fine, go ahead, right? Have I ever used my HMPs to do that? Absolutely not. I usually use my HMPs to move towards the center, move my HMPs around and circle around you, so you have to pick who you're going to attack. That's how I play them. Did you all sleep on HMPs? Yes. Who owns 4 of them and is buying a 5th one at some point? This guy. Love those ships. I know you hate those ships, but like tomorrow at our local, I'm probably running HMPs, just as an FYI. And by the way, we saw HMPs in the Jedha that did Discord missiles, which I never really thought would be a viable thing, but that is. Discord missiles on HMPs are awesome. Guess what else we saw? This is the most exciting. I think this is the most exciting thing about this tournament. No, nobody has any guesses?
I'm going to guess droids. So I'm gonna
guess. No, it's not droids.
No. Of
course not. Stop telling everybody droids are top meta. They haven't made cut in forever. Charles.
Ever. How many droids
at least 6-7 months.
There, though?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'd have to look it up.
Swarms. I'm just
Swarms are different. Charles.
Yo.
What can you guess what excited me?
Bombs?
All right, so I'm just going to give it away because neither one you get.
Like
Vader Defender made top cut. Vader Defender freaking made top cut.
But didn't Vader Defender win one of the matches earlier on?
No.
I thought he had.
No.
Okay.
No, it didn't.
The resistance transports. Yes, like Jay, we're all overwhelmed and excited about resistance transports.
No, sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, I actually thought about it when he's like, "What? Nobody's gonna guess." Is like, Chris. A lot of things excite you about this game, so I have. It's kind of hard.
Vader Defender. They ran Vader Defender, and he made top cut, and he got so far. Now he used Death Rain to go with him, and Death Rain had proton bombs. Yeah. He had proton bombs and Vader Defender in the list.
I need to go back and watch this because I've never seen anybody use the electroproton bombs, and I want to see that.
Yeah,
I agree, man.
So I'm about to say this though. I will say that this is what turns my dials turned into what turns our dials apparently. So I am very proud of that. I also did want to clarify too, like. When we're talking about this, I'm oftentimes, and I mean, it's different when you're talking on stream, like this kind of stuff, but I'm talking about when you're playing a game at your local game store, when you're doing that, when you're playing a tournament and there is, prizes on the line and, fame and fortune and fabulous wealth, obviously, that all the tournaments provide, you got to play what you got to play. But when you're playing in person, one another, like definitely no consequence games. Really think about it, turning to engage. Yes, if you run with your aces and they have, I don't know, some sort of slow brick, you know that you're gonna win if you hit and run. So just think about that when you're putting it on the board, and do try to engage to try to increase the game because that's what you came for, is to play the game.
All right. Well, now that we've seen Vader Defender get in the top 8, I'm sorry. I am very excited by that, and it has given me new inspiration. I don't know if I'd want to run Death. I don't know. I like Death Rain too. All right, fine. I like both of those ships, but Death Rain is so many bloody triggers. I don't know. Electron proton bombs and
electroprotons
and Vader Defender and Top Cut. Just like I literally, when I was watching today, I was like, I didn't even know this list exists. You got to be effing kidding me, because I didn't get to play because I had a family emergency yesterday, and then I was so busy. By the time I got home, it was like 6 o'clock, and the kids are like, "We gotta have dinner," and it's like we had to make dinner for everybody because not, like somebody's got to do that. And at that point, my daughter's like, "You want to play a board game? You can either watch your stupid stream or you can play a board game." And I was like, "All right, fine. I'm gonna play board games with my daughters because that was fun." That was a highlight of my week. We didn't get to play
when she puts it up like that.
Yeah, like that. So, but I'm very excited for if you did not do that or see that, go over to the GSP Twitch. You can see in that top 8, you can see a guy named Crispy play Darth Vader and Death Rain. And I'm sorry, like I'm very ecstatic about that list, and I cannot wait to actually put that list on the table. Only because I love Defenders and I love Vader, and I've wanted to see this. Like I want to see him win a GSP. Like, so now the question is with everything coming out, is there a way we can get him to win the Galactic Championship? That's the goal. There's the challenge for everybody. Somebody help me build a list that I can get me to win that damn thing with Vader Defender, or at least top
Vader Echo, maybe.
Vader Echo. No, I don't think that's strong enough. Anyway,
I don't know.
With that being said, thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be back next week. I don't know the date, so I don't care. Back next week, Sunday, live 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 100 UTC time. And we'll have another amazing episode for episode 14. Episode 14? Man, I can't believe we're on 14 already, but we are. With that being said, thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, everyone.